If I answer to you, improve sidewalk, many would not agree. How can you solve traffic in EDSA by improving the sidewalk? There is a master plan in Metro Manila about urban development. And if you look into this master plan, this is actually based on pedestrian-oriented development. And if we follow our history since Daniel Burnham Master Plan Metro Manila, we had many changes in our master plan. If you try to see our history from very narrow road, it becomes wider because we have to accommodate cars. So it poses, in the past, there's no problem, no traffic problem. But since we devoted too much infrastructure for cars, we didn't realize that we are isolating the pedestrians. Okay. Now in the Philippines, we adopted all of these standards. The car-oriented development, the minimum parking lots, the highway development. We accommodated all of that. So now, 2019, we are facing a lot of problems because most people, they thought that cars is the most important aspect in terms of transportation. Okay? If you walk around, you haven't seen any improvement in sidewalks. No? Today, you can see a lot of infrastructure development, of course, being built, being developed for cars. Diba? How many highway developments are we building right now? Okay? And how many mass transportation? Yes, there are mass transportation currently being planned, developed, but if you see the priority, the cars are, the highway development, the skyways are now being built. Actually, next year, most of this will based on what I heard, will be finished next year. But for the mass transportation system, we had a few. Okay, so basically, our problem in Metro Manila is all of our current building standards, our laws, our ordinances, our building standards, building code, are all influencing how we build our development in terms of the comfort for cars. So for today, most of the metrics we are using is to make going from point A to point B faster. Okay, so that's how we measure success in terms of infrastructure, whereas that's actually wrong if you look at it on a pedestrian oriented perspective. Okay, so I think the metrics that we should use is the safety, because the faster you go from point A to point B, you are actually making our environment hostile for the pedestrians. Okay, as if you are trying to segregate. But if you prioritize your pedestrian to include to include infrastructure for pedestrians, definitely we will have a change of mindset. So I think the root of all these problems that we have in Metro Manila, not only in Metro Manila, if you go in other cities, you know, in Visayas or Mindanao, we all follow the same standard. It's all the building code. Actually, when I was young, I thought that streets are really for cars. No? But when I learned architecture, urban planning, I realized that, hey, there's something wrong with our environment. Okay? So I thought that the street is for cars. No? I thought that the sidewalks should not be occupied by street vendors. But I realized that there is really a problem in terms of equality. No? So if you provide infrastructure for cars, you're not actually making inequality for poor people, because poor people, they cannot afford to buy cars. I was invited by CNN to give a presentation or visualization of what EDSA should look like. So, of course, as a commuter, I grabbed the opportunity to present my concept. Okay, but basically the idea for that video is to emphasize the importance of prioritizing the commuters. Okay, in EDSA. Okay, if you observe in TV reports during traffic, how many private cars did you see on those videos? Okay, so if you really look at it properly, most of the cars are private cars. And if you look inside, try to look inside, they are only occupied by the driver. Probably maximum 3, but most likely these private cars are only have one passenger, okay, or the driver. So, and we are and the public or the government is focusing its attention on regulating the buses. No? Of course, I understand that there are discipline problems for these bus drivers, but I don't agree that removing buses in EDSA. The video I presented, I wanted to show various transportation modes in EDSA. Of course, we have the sidewalk for pedestrian. We have the bicycle. Motorcycle is also included. Of course, the private cars and the buses. Okay. A mass transportation system, we already have MRT or LRT in EDSA. But basically, along the road or along the major roadway, I can see that most of the lanes are dedicated or more catering more for the private cars. So what I did is to create a sense of dignity for the commuters. Give them priority. If the government already give a special lane during APEC and ASEAN, why can't we give the same priority for the commuters? Okay, if you go to EDSA or to commute in EDSA during rush hour, some people mention that there are too many buses. But if you commute during rush hour, you can see so many people there at the sidewalk waiting for bus. So I don't believe that buses are so much. Actually, we need more during rush hour. Okay, so the video, I just wanted to highlight the importance of the commuters, because there are many commuters. Actually, out of the 100% of out of 100% in Metro Manila population, less than 20% own cars. Imagine that, less than 20% own cars. That's the population of Metro Manila. That means that more than 80% of Metro Manila are commuting. So that means you need, in infrastructure, you need to prioritize those more than 80% who don't have cars. And you can see that in EDSA, especially during rush hour. So the idea for the video is to highlight the importance of buses in our development. So the approach I did is, first, there are hierarchy in transportation planning. No? Currently, like I said earlier, we're focusing on the metrics of speed for cars, which is very, very wrong. Okay? So the approach I did is I first consider metrics for walking. That's the foundation of all transportation. How can you solve traffic in EDSA? By improving the sidewalk, right? In EDSA, you're looking on the problem is happening in EDSA, okay? But the source of the problem is not in EDSA. It's in our neighborhood. Like I said earlier, it's the way our standards works, prioritizing the cars, okay? But the process I use in doing that video is to highlight the importance of, first, walking, second, pedestrian, third should be mass transportation or MRT. But then again, since EDSA already has MRT, I skip that portion. Okay? Although we need improvement of MRT, kasi we all know that MRT has a lot of problems. Next is the bus. Okay? After the bus system, carpooling. Last only is the cars. But in our current system, we started last for the cars only. So the approach I did is I just used the basic metrics in transportation planning, which is, like I said earlier, the pedestrians. And that's a hierarchy. But then again, like I said earlier, our infrastructure development, our laws are catering the last transportation, which is individual cars or private cars use. Since we are highlighting cars in our infrastructure, that means we are prioritizing the rich. Okay? So if you give infrastructure for mass transportation system, for public utility vehicles, you are creating equality, both for the rich and poor. Why? Because if you have efficient mass transportation system, efficient public utility vehicles, of course, poor people will use it more, and most likely, the rich people may be able to leave their cars and just use the public utility vehicle or mass transportation system. The impact that I wanted to share or to demonstrate on the video is equality. Not only for the poor or the rich, or also for the age, no? Senior citizen, definitely we have to include them in the parameters of planning our transportation. The bicycle, the pedestrian. So it's more of the equality. This is psychology, no? If you have a dirty environment, most likely people will throw garbage on the street. Okay, but if you have an efficient planning system, most likely people will behave according to what is planned. Okay, so if we know that we can comfortably ride buses, and we have efficient waiting shed for the commuters, I would assume that most Filipinos will use this infrastructure properly without occupying the street just to ride a bus or a jeepney. So I think it's more of how we design our built environment. It's more on survival mode. But if we have an efficient mass transportation system, we have an efficient standards for pedestrian, for cars, definitely it will affect their behavior. Overall, I just like to send a message that car should never be the priority. It has to be the pedestrian. And of course, if we start our metrics for pedestrian, definitely we would develop a built environment that are more pedestrian oriented. Currently, our system dictates that our streets are for the comfort of car drivers. And if we manage to implement strategies that are focusing for the pedestrian, definitely more people will use their cars. And more or less, they would not buy any more cars. Okay? And the overall impact is less cars, more healthy environment, less pollution. So I guess it's really on how we prioritize our development. And if we only focus our attention for the pedestrians, for walking, for bicycling, definitely we will have a major impact not only for transportation but also in terms of Filipinos' health and wellness.